Computer.
Okay.
Dr. Figtree, it is so great to have you on our podcast today. So, this is the Challenger Fit podcast. I'm Lara McKeever, and I am a personal trainer and nutrition coach here in Naples, Florida. And I have a very special guest on. She inspires me very much with her holistic nutrition practices. And I'm so excited to have her on the call today, Dr. Dale Figtree.
My
So nice.
pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to pick your brain about this issue
What?
we have going on here. And especially in this country, we really need to start taking a closer look at our nutrition and preventative healthcare. So, could you just start by sharing a bit of your personal healing journey and just, how you create your nutrition programs?
Well, first of all, I just want to respond first to what you said because um, I got involved in nutrition about 50 years ago. And to see the changes that have happened and how the internet has changed things, there's never been a better time, more open time for good information to get out there, for people to become involved. This is an exciting time it's easier to make good choices now than it's been in the last few hundred years, I'm sure. So, and I appreciate your being a part of just making it easier and getting it out there.
The
Anyhow,
only issue is it's always accessible. There's so much now. You can just keep scrolling and you don't know what's true and what's false and how
yeah,
to
and that's
trust.
the
So,
other, yeah, that I once read something in the New York Times saying never before has there been so much information about nutrition, and never before have people been so confused.
so
Because
true.
word of mouth is tricky. With my practice, I've heard so many things in so many different directions. I tend to go to, when I meet somebody one-to-one and know about someone's experience or work from my own experience, that's really my choice, rather than to just read things, pick them up and think that they're true, because it's tricky. Yeah,
Absolutely. That is one thing. There's so much accessibility.
yeah. Anyway, my story is that at 27 years old, I was living in New York City. I was an artist working as a designer in a firm there. And I was in New York City because I was attracted to a spiritual community that involved Ram Dass. I'm sure everyone's heard of Ram Dass and Krishna Das. He's pretty famous now on the circuit. And there was a woman named Joya. I was involved in meditation, and I got drawn into this group, which was just a great group at that time. And suddenly I started having some lung problems, and I got an x-ray, and it just turned out that I ended up having lymphoma. I had a big tumor outside my lung, connected to my heart and my main arteries and the outside of my lung. And in those days, there wasn't that much. There was radiation, there was chemo was limited. I did have surgery, and surgery, hold on, I'm turning off my phone. The surgery, they couldn't remove the tumor because of a physician, so they sort of just closed me up. They accidentally severed the nerve to one of my vocal cords, so if my voice sounds a little bit hoarse, it's just because I have one vocal cord that's overcompensating, but that's little compared to the bigger picture. Anyhow, there was chemotherapy, but it wasn't chemotherapy that could destroy the cancer. It could just reduce it somewhat, but they decided to put me on it. They said they wanted to put me on it for 3 years, and there was a 50% chance it would knock out all my hormones. And then they told me there's radiation, and they're going to try radiation. It's shrunk other people's tumors. So, I was just yes. I didn't know any better. Okay. And the chemo, they stopped after 2 months. They said it was kind of destroying my immune system. And so I stayed with radiation for 6 months. Originally, I was told that my type of tumor with radiation, there may be like a 10% chance of response. Of course, I thought response meant cure. I didn't realize response didn't necessarily mean cure. Anyway, And I was told if there was a metastasis that it was like 0. Okay. So this radiation treatment, I was told that they was shown an x-ray and there was a new lump. And I was told I had a metastasis about 3 inches below the first one. And they wanted to start radiation on it the next day. And, up until that time, I mean, I was strong and, I'd been basically healthy my whole life. I mean, I thought, I'm going to beat this thing. But when they told me that, I became really panicked. And I just went home terrified. And I immediately called my spiritual mentor, this yoga teacher I worked with. She was out of town, but I got in touch with her on the phone. And she said, when she comes in the weekend, we'll work together. She said, but when I hang up the phone, she wants me to light a candle and just do some meditation. So I lit a candle. I couldn't do meditation. My mind was just too crazy. So I decided to do meditation. And I visualized all the cancer cells like spiders clumped together, surrounded inside a volcano, so they were contained. And at the top of the volcano, hundreds of thousands of white blood cells with knights in armor with lances and a clash of cymbals. They went down, poked, cut every single cancer cell, and the cancer cells would just dissolve, 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 dissolve. And I stayed with it. And I stayed with it. It was grace, really. I just didn't think about time. I just stayed with it. And after 40 minutes, I couldn't find any more cells. So I figured, okay, that's done. So I opened my eyes, blew out the candle, and I found myself in an altered state. The fear was gone. It was like I was high. I just thought, whoa, fantastic. I had a good dinner, a good night's sleep. Even going to the hospital the next day, I was so even. I was aware that how strange it was that I was so even. Anyway, I get to the hospital. They say, we want to do new x-rays to get the exact measurements for the radiation. They took the x-rays. My doctor walked in looking really strange. He said, we cannot find the lump. He said, we want to do more x-rays. We think the physician had never found it, never had that. So
What? So it just poof, like that is insane. Wow.
It was a wake-up call because it was the first time I got involved in my own healing. Up until then, it was like, yes, yes, yes. I was the kid, the doctors were the boss, you know what I mean? So from that point on, when I'd have radiation, I just would do my visualization and stuff like that.
Huge.
Anyhow,
Laws of attraction is one of my favorite things on the planet. And when you really tune into it, it's amazing what can happen. What is it? Where focus goes, energy flows. It's spot on. I always tell my clients that too.
all of my clients, I encourage them, not only with diet, but if they're taking a supplement, when they take that supplement, to just see what happened, just healing, healing, healed. Or if we're trying to change a number, like a client had very high liver enzymes. I said, you put the liver enzymes to 25. Every time you drink your juice or every time you take this supplement, just picture liver enzymes 25. I mean, they were at 400. They were out of range. He was close to a liver transplant, but he changed his whole.
Wow.
In 8 months, his liver enzymes were not 26, were not 23, they were 25, exactly. So
that is phenomenal.
Intention, there's always mystery in healing. And it's a big thing. Anyway, 6 months went by and I was finally told that I could never have more radiation again in my lifetime in that area because my spine was behind there and I ran the risk of becoming paralyzed. And they said a month for things to settle. And after a month, the x-ray showed that the tumor had shrunken from the size of like a grapefruit to the size of like a walnut. And they said, there's nothing else they can do. I said, well, why can't you now take it out? And they said, your radiation, all your tissues would fall apart. They said, we'll just check on you. And if it starts to grow again, there's very heavy to slow it down. But I mean, really, I was just, all I can say is it was terrifying and it was extraordinary, magnificent.
At the same time. How long was that again? That difference of how you went from the grapefruit to the walnut-sized tumor? 6 months, you said? And how old were you at that point in your life? In your 30s?
Oh, no, I was like 27.
27. Wow. Okay.
And I'm 76 right now. So it was 50 years ago.
Wow, you look amazing. You're like glowing over here. So that's another thing that really goes to show.
So
Wow.
when I say it was terrifying and magnificent, terrifying that I was left alone. That was it. Magnificent in that it just shook me awake. I realized I want to survive and I need to find a way to do it. And I literally went home and sat at my meditation table and lit a candle and I asked for help.
Mhm,
Spirit, ancestors,
mhm.
people like me, healers,
Absolutely.
just asked for help.
Yeah.
And they, almost like a tsunami, just
Mhm.
coming into my life. I mean, it was just wild. I'd have a thought and a car would go by with a license plate saying, go for it. Or, I mean, it was one.
Yes. Oh, wow. It was, and then you start looking for all these signs. I love that. Yeah.
They were there all the time, but I just wasn't
Mhm.
sensing,
Of course. It's like even with a negative thing, it really depends on which way your mindset is. And then you start seeing those negative things. It's just a matter of shifting that mindset. And yeah, it's phenomenal what it can really do for you.
So within a week, a woman called me that I knew. She was an acupuncturist. And she said, I know of an extraordinary doctor in New York. I didn't want to give you his name before while you're on treatment because he wouldn't have worked with you, but he
Mhm.
works with nutrition and you should call him. I said, great. So I called him. He picked up the phone and we had a half an hour conversation. I told him about my situation and he said, my secretary will call you back. And she never did. So a few days went by and I called him back and never got him, just got his answering machine. And after about 3 weeks, I realized he didn't want to work with me, but he was the only card in my hand. So I kind of badgered him. I just called again and again and said, look,
Yeah.
one-time consultation, I need to see it. Finally, after a month, he called back. He said, okay, okay, okay. He said,
He's
first,
dodging you.
first he
Okay,
wanted me,
that's good.
a colleague of his in Harlem, this like 99-year-old doctor who was just crazy. Anyway, finally he saw me. I didn't know till years later that he had been arrested a few times for treating people with cancer.
Oh,
Didn't want to touch my face because it didn't sound promising to him. But, my whatever, he finally opened and he said, okay. So I went and saw him and he gave me this food program, kind of just pushed it at me, was not very, enthusiastic, just said, here it is for it. And I said, I'm going to see you in a month from now. He doesn't say anything. So I go home and it's more food than I ever ate before in my life. And it's working with juices. I mean, just a whole new thing. But to
mhm.
me, no question. No question I was going to do it 110%. So, and there wasn't organic in New York at that time, not very many. So
Okay.
just works up. So I do breakfast. And by the way, I went on disability. I stopped my work. So this became full focus. I
Mhm.
could So I could do lunch, but dinner, I would do halfway through the dinner and be totally full. I mean, this was twice or three times the amount of food I ever ate before. When I talk about doubling or tripling fuel, I'm not talking about calories. I'm not talking about protein. I'm talking about quality nutrients. Quality nutrients.
Micronutrients, yes, definitely. Just as
Well,
important.
and mostly live food. So dinner, I'd have my dinner totally full, but there's no way I'm going to go to sleep without eating at all. So I take a nap and I come back and I just get it in. And for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I went to sleep with a stomach ache and a hot water bottle. And after 2 or 3 weeks, my stomach stretched and stretched, and I was suddenly able to eat this huge amount of food, more food than anybody I knew, anybody. And right off the bat, things started happening. Like, after 2 or 3 days, I had the runs for a day or two, called the doctor. He said, great, your body's starting to clean out. Then I had this really bad headache. He said, great, the toxins are moving through the body. Then I'd
Yeah.
wake up, my eyes would be kind of stuck together.
Um,
Stuff is coming out. Then my nose would just start running. It was like he explained that everything is the body just clearing. when I was a teenager, I had bad skin. My skin started breaking out.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
like, what's going on? Am I having an allergic reaction? But really your body was purging. That's fascinating. Yes.
I was eating more food than I ever did, and I was losing weight, which was pretty scary. He said, this weight has nothing to do with calories. Your body is in an intensive breaking down cleaning mode. It will shift to a building mode at some point. And sure enough, 3 months later, on the same amount of food, it shifted to a building mode and I regained all my weight. It was fascinating, you know. I went through extreme low energy for a while where I'd walk up the steps and have to sit at the top of the steps and catch my breath. He said, your energy is being pulled inside. He said, look at animals. When they're not well, they just curl up in corners. They don't even eat, you know, they just wait, let the energy be used inside. So, you know, this idea, I need to exercise, I need to increase my energy, I need to feel better. No, it's like the intelligence of the body have the first choice of energy.
Yes,
So,
listen to it.
and I went through ups and downs, and there were times with the ups where I was feeling pretty good. I was doing visualization practice every single day
Amazing.
and living a very quiet life. I mean, this was my life. And I started having some dreams that were very interesting. As a matter of fact, I just published a book a year ago called The Gifting of Dreams. And it's a lot to do with the dreams that came while I was in this healing process. As a matter of fact, 2 years before I got cancer, I had a dream that I was in a meditation group and I saw this picture that my meditation teacher kept on her altar of someone named Sai Baba, like a saint from India. So I had this dream that Sai Baba comes to me. He wants to reach into my chest and take something out like a marble. And I won't let him. That's the dream. So 2 years later, I have cancer in that spot.
Whoa, that is
I didn't know, or else
supernatural.
part of me, that masculine part of me that's a knower, that, you know, who knows? And there were dreams, especially when I started doing the diet, that were just very supportive, and I kind of go through it in this book, and it gets much deeper than just this thing. My doctor called me in after about 3 months, and we did X-rays. Well, according to your blood work, you're my healthiest patient. And he said, your X-rays confused me. That you had a very fast-growing malignancy, and it hasn't changed. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, and I explained to him, and he kind of scratched his head, and he said, well, I don't understand, but just don't stop.
Because they're not educated on that, really. They're like, you know, here, take this pill, or let's go undergo more treatment. But yeah, it's never educated in modern day.
Yeah. So that was very important for me to just hear
Right.
on the right track. And I continued. I just continued. I continued to do this for 3 years. I mean, I'm still living to some degree along a similar line. I'd be a fool not to. But during 3 years, I went through some ups and some downs and, you know, different things. But at the end of the years, I went through something massive, which very few people go through. But once in a while, people do go through this. I've had a few clients who went through this. It's a massive, deep cleansing. I started coughing up like golf ball spots, mucus, and then I had spots in front of my eyes, and then I had fever, and then I had the runs for 6 weeks. I had fever for 3 months. I had a friend that was a doctor. I said, have you ever seen anyone with fever for 3 months? He said, never.
How high was your fever?
Well, it started at 104, went down to 103, and then settled at 102. And then I had developed a very fast heartbeat, and I started to drop weight. So the first month I dropped 10 pounds, the second month, 10 pounds. I was living in this community in Florida. We moved to Florida, and if I had been by myself or with my parents, I'd be in the hospital. As a matter of fact, there was a doctor in the community that wanted to go in the hospital. And another practitioner said, if she goes in the hospital, she won't come back. She'll get sick. And what are they going to
catch something in there? Absolutely. Is very often.
on 10 days of antibiotics just in case this was an infection. They did nothing. They did nothing. And my nutritional doctor said, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the big, deep clean out. And I just kept going on. It kept going on. I just stayed in bed. I just got weaker. I lost weight. Most people around me thought I was on my way out. And suddenly, after 3 months, I was so weak that I realized that maybe I could die from just detoxing. And then I just went inside, and with the most ferocity I could muster, I just said, enough. And within a week, my fever came to normal. My weight started coming back. I started growing a new body. And then I broke out in all the symptoms of chemotherapy. And my body, almost every part of it, started to, this was just massive release, massive release. During chemo, I never lost my hair. I lost my hair color. I was only on it for 2 months, so I lost about an inch of color. It got lighter, and then when it grew back in, it was darker. And as it grew in, it was like a halo.
Wow, just as it was regenerating your cells, it changed. I've heard that before from a lot of patients.
Exact same thing happened years later.
Really?
Source
Wow. It changed again?
as the chemo was just being pushed out. Not just the chemo, but really the underlying causes, I believe, of the cancer.
The issue. That is key.
Later, I ended up having a CT scan, and they said no trace of cancer.
Oh, I got goosebumps right now hearing this. So I'm so curious about the program that your nutritional doctor put you on at that point.
About it. But let me just say that after that, people started to call me. My doctor retired. He was an old man because he was hounded by the medical profession. He didn't write books. He didn't train people. And then he was gone. And people started calling me and saying, what did you do? I've got cancer and I don't know what to do. And could you tell me that? And I tell them a little bit. And finally, I couldn't tell my story anymore. So I wrote it in a book called Health After Cancer. Now it's called Beyond Cancer Treatment. And then I realized it's not enough to just know the diet. You need someone there to really support you through the changes, because we're so programmed when we're not well to think something's wrong, but we really don't understand the deeper implications of healing, that when the body is going through a symptom, many times the symptom is the body getting rid of something, and you don't want to just push it back in and stop it. And, you want to be able to create boundaries so it doesn't get out of control, but you want to allow it to express itself. So I realized that I was on disability. I've been an artist my whole life. I had the time and the energy. I just felt like that I should carry on this tradition. The one that he said, no, I'm not going to see.
I'm finding you. I love the persistence.
So I did
proud, that's for sure.
I did research, and there was a school in Alabama or something, the Holistic College of Nutrition, and they did masters and PhDs in nutrition, and I called them, and they were way too expensive. I couldn't do it. But they kept me on the phone. They wanted to know who I was, what I did. And I said, well, I told my story, told them I wrote this book. And they said, would you send me the book? I said, sure. And 2 weeks later, I got a letter that I have a full scholarship. And it was like an Antioch type of school. I could get my courses in physiology, biology, chemistry, everything where I lived. And my book was considered my dissertation. And within 3 years, I had got my PhD. And then, as grace would have it, there was a doctor I heard about of nutrition who was accepting apprentices. And he let me apprentice with him. And he knew blood work. He knew how to change blood work with food and supplements. And I sat in for 6 months with him, and it gave me a tool to interface with doctors. And it's been so important in my career, to have that one. And so, I apprenticed, and I just started working with people, and I'm still working with people. I've written a few books since then, a cookbook, a book for children, and now one that combines dreams with the healing arts. And so
That'll
here
be
I am,
next.
a lot of gratitude. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's an incredible story. And I'm very curious about the nutrition plan and also the blood work behind it, because I've also read into different blood types and how they tend to, for example, I mean, I read that vegans are very good for, I think it's A blood type or something like that, and certain ones are better for meat eaters. I'm not sure how true that is. I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
I definitely don't buy into the blood types.
Blood types, okay. That's a farce.
Feel that they make it sound like it's a legitimate science, and it's really not. And the truth of the matter is that the body is extremely adaptable. And what
Mm,
my ancestors lived on was a different world. And I just found that it is not relevant. I just find that it's not relevant. I've never met anybody who has used blood type to really profoundly heal. And that's the bottom line. Had I met somebody that had, I would have taken more interest in it. But again, word of mouth is cheap compared to meeting someone and having that experience. So for me, it took years to really fully understand the science behind what my doctor had me do. And he was a brilliant doctor. He had a fasting center in upstate New York for 30 years. And the healings that took place there were beyond belief. And he just understood this. He understood that the body is brilliant beyond our capacity to fully understand, and that its main job is survival. But to engage the depth and the body's intelligence and inner intelligence, not our mind, but an inner intelligence knows where the problems are and many times knows how to fix them. The thing is to engage the body's brilliance, to engage the body's capacity, requires fuel, more fuel than we use during the day. The average person in our society, the amount of fuel they take in, and again, fuel, I'm not talking calories, I'm not talking protein, I'm talking high quality nutrients. The amount they take in is barely enough for what they need to get through the day. And it's not enough to keep them from getting arthritis, which is rampant, cancer, which is rampant, diabetes, which is rampant. We're not getting enough of the kind of fuel for the body to deepen into what's possible, number one. Number two, we're also feeding the problems and overwhelming the body and diluting that energy in just constantly defensive demands.
yes.
We're setting up a situation where the body's self-healing capacity just is not able to do its full job. And, I love using the metaphor of like a bear running from, or a person running from a bear, and is suddenly able to run faster than ever thought humanly possible, jump higher than ever thought humanly possible. My sense is that the body is capable of healing beyond what most people realize is possible if the intensity is there. And so my doctor understood that. And the diet he put me on was a very simple diet. It was easy to digest. It was the full bounty of nutrients. It's not like any one food is a special healing food. Full bounty of nutrients in an easy to digest form. And I was just consuming like 2 or 3 times the amount of fuel I ever had in my life, number one. And number two, I stopped the input of anything that diluted that or fed the problem as best as I could. And just that setup, and that's what I do with my clients, just up supports. I'm not manipulating. I'm not giving this to do that. I mean, some things, you can play around and do that, but the bottom line is that you're supporting the body's brilliance, and then you're allowing it. And it usually doesn't happen overnight. Many conditions take years, sometimes decades to form. So it could take time. I mean, for me, it was like 3 years when I work with cancer patients and after 6 months, they're not seeing that much change. It's like, be patient. It's
I
just
know,
deep.
and it's so hard at that point because they're scared and, nervous, and
And
it
some
can't start
cancer
to
is
have out
great.
and they give up. Yeah.
So
And you feels in deeper at that point and be like, actually, it's your body working. And that's why an accountability coach like yourself, what we're doing, a lot of the times people know what to do, but they need someone guiding them or giving them accountability to actually keep up with it. So thank God your doctor was there for that. Now,
great.
when you say, high, well, first of all, this is makes so much sense. It's like common sense, but people don't typically see that and try to avoid these things that dilute them. So could you give some examples of things that dilute
Yeah.
the nutrients?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me just say that the basic diets, fresh vegetable juices are like nothing else. They just get into the body immediately. Very little energy is needed to chop and break down. It's broken down, it's available. So to start the day, I had 3 juices a day. The Gerson Institute does 14 juices a day, but they rely more on juices than food, so I don't think that's necessary for most people. So most of my clients who don't have cancer, I encourage 1 or 2 freshly made juices a day, not blended juice, but for cancer patients, definitely 3. And then breakfast and lunch, are basically raw because you get the highest nutrient base. So it could be followed with like a salad I call blended salad. Just a salad that's ground up so that it's easier to digest. Or, I call granola where you can mix, fruit and nuts and sunflower sprouts. And, there are choices to be made. But for me, it was like juice and then this blended salad or gazpacho. And then, believe it or not, a pound of fruit, a pound. People are scared of fruit with cancer. They think the sugar. And there are different types of fruit, like berries and apples have very low glucose buildup. Even diabetics can have them without a problem. So a pound of that. And the main protein is just nuts, raw, unsalted. The oil in them is just the extraordinary oils. And so he would change things. Sometimes it would be, and for breakfast, an ounce of raw almonds, sometimes raw walnuts, sometimes sesame butter, just different things. And then lunch is not dissimilar, juice and a big salad that I'd blend. It would be easier, another pound of fruit, and then a 1/4 pound of nuts. So much more, nuts. And the different varieties, and you just eat them throughout the afternoon. And then dinner again would be juice, another salad, always something raw. And then like a pound of vegetables, a pound. And you want different colors. Each color has its gift,
Yes.
And then the entrees would be, some nights a pound of potatoes. Potatoes have gotten such a bad rap, but they're brilliant. The waters in them is brilliant. The vitamin C, the fiber, many things. Yams are extraordinary. They're carotene family. Beans are wonderful. Whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, oats, millet. Basically it was those 4, food groups. And large quantities of all of those. And that's the basics. There are other things that can be added here and there, but that was the basics. Once in a while, 2 organic eggs.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh, it was very vegetarian for the most part,
yeah,
avoiding meat while you're undergoing this. And I've heard that before because there are so many carcinogens in our meat, unless you really find some grass-fed, grass-finished, right?
there's that, but there's also the fat in meat is saturated fat. It's sticky fat, and it
Ah,
contributes to inflammation. So if I have someone that comes to me with an inflammatory condition, joint pain, stuff like that, to get them off of all animal products, all inflammatory fats is really seems to be a big player in that game. You know,
Right. And so those for dairy is
occasionally some wild caught fish, you know, for some people it's fine. Occasionally some, you know, goat or sheep yogurt or, you know, big cheese occasionally is fine. Again, each person is different. So some
yes.
people that wouldn't work for, but there are other people that would. The foods that you asked that are weak in it are all the refined carbohydrates, you know, things like breads, that they're just, you know, when the things are refined, the nutrients have gone. And breads swell. You know, I tell people if you eat a sandwich and you take away the bread, you just eat what's in the center, you're hungry in an hour. It's like the bread just swells and fills you up. You have the feeling you're full, but you're not really full.
Empty
And
calories.
pasta, I tell people if you love pasta, you know, spiralized zucchini.
Yes, I say the same thing. I love that. Absolutely. And I had palmini the other day, which is made out of hearts of palm, and I loved it. It's just another way to get more vegetables in. And red lentil pasta, there's so many options. So that's great.
Lentil pasta, again, you're getting into something that's refined.
Ah, okay.
No, it's not unhealthy.
Hmm.
But if you're dealing with a crisis where you want to keep things as high as possible, you would just do the red lentils. You wouldn't do the refined.
Right.
But
Processed. Yeah, that makes sense.
it's not going to hurt them.
Mhm.
It's
And
refined, you know, it's a step down. Um, Sugar and artificial sweeteners. You know, I mean, at this point right now, you know, I do unrefined honey and maple syrup once in a while. But if somebody has active cancer, the cancer uses more glucose than normal cells, so you don't want any of that. Uh, yeah, I mean, I just and animal products. You know, I'm not completely against animal products if somebody's just healthy and in good shape and doesn't have inflammatory conditions. You know, grass-fed beef once in a while, and you know, the healthy eggs once in a while, and wild caught fish once in a while combined in things. Different people are different places, and I'm not making things like completely black and white. You know, it really depends upon where people are at and what's going on.
what are your
And
thoughts on organ meat?
pardon?
What are your thoughts on organ meat, like liver and heart? And you know, I've read a lot that it says there's a lot of nutrients in those, but you know, for the typical person that doesn't have cancer, I'm talking about.
So the liver is like a filter of the body.
Mm.
I
Oh,
wouldn't
so
touch
you're thinking?
I wouldn't touch that yet. The Gerson Institute, they used to
Right.
juice liver and have people drink that. So who
Yeah.
knows? I just am a little bit wary of it because it's the filter of the body.
See.
Yeah, for heart, I mean, they say if you eat organs, it can strengthen those organs in your own body. An example is that I had the thymus gland is right here. The thymus gland helps produce white blood cells. And that was the area that was radiated in me. And at some point, my T cells, my T white blood cells were very low, and we couldn't figure out why. And the doctor told me there's nothing to be done. Gamma globulin doesn't touch them. I mean, there was nothing. It was scary. And I went home and I did research, and I found out that the white blood cells were made in the thymus. And then I realized my thymus had been radiated. So I found the company that got thymus glandular from the thymus gland from New Zealand, where they didn't give animals chemicals. And so I took one 3 times a day, and I kept picturing, you know, T cells like 600. They had been 100, 600, 600 every time. And within 3 weeks, my doctor called me up. 3 weeks. She said to retest you, because if it's gotten lower, we need to put you in the hospital or something like that. We
Yeah.
retested 606. I mean, it was mind blowing. So that was a case where glandulars were brilliant. So if it's a glandular, if it's from cows that aren't fed stuff, you know,
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, they can really work to help strengthen organs. So I'm not against that, and sometimes promote that myself.
Oh, okay. I see. Um, so I'm curious about what are your thoughts with, I'm saying the typical person that may exercise about 4 times a week. Do you have a recommendation on how much protein this person should have each day? I know you're really focused on the micronutrients, and I completely agree with you there. But getting that protein in to maintain their muscle mass and all that, what would you recommend?
Okay, first of all, if somebody is dealing with a crisis and trying to heal something, whether it's an arthritic problem, whether it's cancer, whatever, for a period of time, they want the best of the energy to be available inside. And I tell people, chill with exercise. Walking is restorative exercise is one, restorative yoga is wonderful, weights are wonderful, but don't push exercise to burn energy. Okay.
Cross,
For
pretty
people,
much.
yeah, for people that really push exercise, when you say how much protein, it's just really tricky because it's all over the place and nobody knows for sure. So you
Right.
just aim that your meals have balanced nutrients. And if you're dropping too much weight and you're losing muscle mass, then you need more. Now, this is when a big problem comes in, because what's happened is the people have turned towards protein powders.
Mhm.
Powders, they take protein sources, whether it's a dairy source, whether it's a soy source, pea protein. And what they do is they process it and they take the amino acids out and leave everything else behind. So they have this concentrated. And it's
Mhm.
acid, amino acids. I did an experiment a few years ago where I thought, I wonder how I would feel if I had 20 more grams of protein a day. I just wanted to try it. So I did research and I found I didn't want to do the whey. I didn't want to do the soy. So I did organic pea protein, just mixed in a with banana and water every day. It was yummy. After 20 days, I woke up and my mouth was just burning. I was in a state of acidosis. My system had become completely acid. Of course, I'm more sensitive than most people because of how I eat, but it
Sure.
showed me that protein powders that are refined are pure acid. The healthiest balance for the body is to actually be a little more alkaline than acid.
I see.
I now tell people is use hemp seeds. Hemp
Mm,
seeds are amazing protein, 3 tablespoons or 12 grams of protein, but they also have beautiful anti-inflammatory fats. They also have wonderful fiber. So you can make a milkshake of, water or almond milk or something like that, 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds. Chia seeds are not as high in protein, but also very good for you. A banana, maybe blueberries, there are ways to do it that are really healthy. To eat more nuts with each meal, to put nuts and things, nuts and seeds are another great way. And what we don't understand is that there's protein in everything. Lettuce has protein in it. If you're eating whole foods, you're also getting protein. And so, I just encourage people to work with that, work with a lot of nuts. Eggs are fine. Again, if you want to add wild caught fish,
mhm.
a healthy grass fed, meat, I'm not against that. But I think that this fallacy of over needing to overload protein for muscles is because the rest of people's diets are not that healthy.
Right.
And don't know the damage they're doing by just keeping things so acidic. So
So true. Well said there. And when you said hemp seeds, eh, hemp hearts, that's basically the same thing? Or I heard that I've read that hemp hearts have, for 1 cup, it's like around 30 grams of protein. Or is
yeah,
that just
10 hearts. You
okay?
never want to ground up because when you ground up nuts or seeds, you
Mhm.
expose oils to oxygen and then they oxidize and they lose some of their They're good.
Nutritious.
So you want the hemp hearts. Yeah.
I see. Okay, great. Awesome. So what are your thoughts on fasting?
Okay, so fasting can be brilliant.
Mhm.
Fasting has a place. It's not for everybody. For me, I'm lightweight. Fasting is not very much an option unless my body is rejecting food and it just tells me for a day to just go on water or just go on blended vegetable soup. So, but for people that can fast, let me just say this. There's an extraordinary place called True North that's up in Santa Rosa, California. They have some cases of people with lymphoma who fasted for 30 days and healed. Not everybody does. And my doctor ran a fasting clinic. So if somebody has the extra weight to do it, fasting is a brilliant way to clean out excess. But it needs to be done right. You need to rest. You need to start it with a juice fast. You need to end it with a juice fast. I have a close friend who came to me as a client. He was a Taekwondo master, black belt, fifth degree black belt. And he had something called Dubicken's contracture. And it was a family genetic thing where the connective tissue was getting tighter and more abundant, and he was losing his ability to move his hands. He had surgery a few times, wasn't helping that much. He went on my program. He was healthy in every way, but it didn't change this. So finally I said to him, why don't you call True North and go up there and try fasting? So he went up there and he said, I want to do a fast. And he said, I went inside and I heard 40 days. They said, oh, no, we would never fast anyone for 40 days. 30 is the limit. He said, well, okay. So he fasted for 30 days. Not an easy thing to do, but because he was a master Taekwondo and stuff, he was able to just be with it. 30
I
days, cold water. Okay.
can
Nothing.
imagine that.
But after 30 days, he was in such good shape. He said, come on, let me just do another 10 days. And they said, well, your blood work looks good. You haven't lost a scary amount of weight. We'll keep an eye on it. If your blood work acts weird, we're going to pull you off. He said, okay. On day 35, his blood work started looking weird. And they said, if it's like this tomorrow, you're off it. So he went inside and he said, come on, buddy, you told me 40 days. I need my blood work to look. So the next day they did his blood work and it looked fine. On day 38, he felt this completely shift. And he knew that it was broken. He knew that the disease was broken. He went 40 days and then cleared. It has, the damage slowly recedes, but it has never progressed. The disease broken. He wrote a book which can be bought on Amazon called 40 Days and 40 Nights. It's an extraordinary book by Bill Staub or Xavier Staub, Staub, So fasting has its place. But I suggest when people fast that they rest, let the energy be used inside. Filled water, best water, and not to ever buy it in plastic. From Amazon for under $100, you can buy a water distiller and make your own. So done correctly, I feel fasting can be brilliant.
But for me, the most I've ever done was 30 hours. I was like, this is enough for me. But yeah, no working out really. I'll just walk at the very most or just take clients where I'm demoing, but I'm not doing heavy lifting. It's just the worst. But I'm curious to know how much he lost. Do you know?
I just say, by the way, some of my clients I'll put on 3-day water fast or 3-day juice fast or 10-day juice fast. If there's something, it depends, but there's benefit in that, but you have to watch it, you have to rest and stuff like that.
Yeah. Right. So when they go on a juice fast, is it any different, the contents that you recommend for when they're just juicing and fasting?
Well, juice fast, I just do a variation of different juices. Every course, an 8-ounce glass of juice. Sometimes there's an apple juice in the middle. Usually it's just, vegetable juices, just celery, carrot, different things like that. Dandelion leaves.
Dandelion leaves. What are the benefits to that?
Oh, they're the most amazing food for the liver.
Wow,
Incredible.
really?
I mean, it's really brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So it just really detoxes and cleanses your liver.
He eats it, doesn't
He
detox it.
eats it. Okay. See, I'm learning so much from you. Okay. So do you know by any chance how much your client lost when he fasted for 40 days? I was just curious.
He writes it in the book. I
I'll have
don't
to
know,
look.
but he was kind of stocky to begin with. So he probably lost about 20 pounds.
Wow,
Um,
more than that for, not eating anything for 40 days.
um,
That's
maybe more, maybe, but it was never a health issue for him. Not everyone can do that.
yeah. Oh, I don't think I could.
No, I
I I guess you can do everything when you put your mind to it, but I'm like, I love food a lot.
not for everybody.
Yeah. And I've heard some different topics about fasting for men and women, that men have more benefits to it. In your opinion, is that true?
I never heard that, and I
Oh,
don't.
never. I've heard that it throws off women's cycles, fasting, and you have more benefits as a man to fast for their hormones. Okay. Okay.
I,
Good to know. So on that note of hormones, I have a lot of clients that are perimenopause, or they're going through menopause right now, and I wonder if you have any recommendations to suggest to those women going through it right now.
well, with hot flashes and stuff, one thing that helps hot flashes is when you make a juice to put a few leaves of romaine in it. Very helpful for hot flashes.
Romaine, okay. Few leaves of romaine, we'll take it. I bet they'll try it.
There are these formulas at the health food store that have things like Vitex, black coash. Um, there's some great herbs
Mhm.
that really calm down and support that. You know,
Mhm.
to a acupuncturist that does acupuncture and has herbs, knows about herbs is another choice. But it's not that difficult with just finding an herbal formula that helps. Sometimes a very healthy formula with progesterone that you rub on your skin for some people might help. Of course, you don't expect things to happen overnight. It can take a
Of course.
week to notice a difference. But I found personally that they really make a difference.
Okay. And does it help with their lack of sleep? Because I've noticed a lot of my clients that are going through it right now, they really can't sleep. And it's, they have, then from that, it's like a ripple effect of anxiety and depression. And then they're wired at night. And then they have the hot flashes and the bloat on top of it. So,
Yeah, again, I would suggest that they try the menopausal herb formulas. They're all very
helps solve it.
and they might experiment again with the progesterone cream every night. Need to put in a different place. Takes a few days to get absorbed in kind of a fatty area.
Mm,
Um, so it's a work in progress.
I
It's a work.
see. Right. Thank you for that. I have a lot of clients that are also battling autoimmune diseases right now. And, I mean, cancer is a whole world of its own right now. And we are the top country in the world going through this right now. I mean, I lost two aunts, one to lung cancer, one to glioblastoma. And, it hits everybody differently. But now I'm seeing a ton of autoimmune diseases that are coming out of the woodwork. One of my really good friends has RA, another one has Hashimoto's. I wonder if you have had any experience with these. My other aunt has encephalitis.
Yeah, a lot. Um, Autoimmune means that the immune system's attacking itself. And a lot of times it has to do with just debris in the immune system. It's possible that vaccines may contribute to that.
Mhm.
Not against important vaccines, thank goodness for the polio vaccine when I was young. But, you know, nowadays, I mean, babies, before they leave the hospital, are given a cocktail with like hepatitis
Ridiculous.
C, and it's just insane. I mean, it's just, and, you know, it's just tricky. It's
Mhm.
just, I mean, the first thing I would suggest is that people don't get vaccines unless they deem it, you know, absolutely necessary. That's number one. But autoimmune, it's not just the vaccines, it's exposure to, you know, chemicals. And I mean, and there's always mystery. There's going to be things that we don't understand. But my experience is that the body wants to clean things out. It wants to heal. And on an extremely high nutrient diet, like we spoke about, I have seen autoimmune conditions improve drastically,
Wow.
drastic, just drastically.
It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been vaccinated, and I want to say it's been 15 plus years now. You know, I just won't go near any of it. And I'm like, I think when you are taking care of your body, you're putting the right things into it with food and, exercising however you see fit, you're good. That's your vaccine right there. So I love that you are on the same page with that. Um, so as far as Hashimoto, so they're all kind of the same. You notice that as long as they are just
You
pumped
know,
with.
yeah, Hashimoto's, even though, you know, it's autoimmune, you're also dealing with thyroid. I mean, increasing iodine can be very helpful. Again, detoxifying, you know, and detoxifying is not going to a sauna and going on a fast. That will never get to the depth and the breadth of what really underlies things. It's just superficial. It just
Right.
is. So again, doubling, tripling fuel,
Mhm.
things that are diluting. You know, with something like thyroid, there's something called L-thyrazine, which is a very supportive supplement. You know, seaweed is just amazing, and it's iodine and things like that, but it can't be seaweed from Japan or the Orient because of Fukushima.
Ones that you get in the store, it's like, it's raw seaweed.
It
Where
needs to
can you,
be, it needs to be from Maine or someplace not the Orient.
it's,
Uh,
what did you say?
it needs to be from Maine, or it's just not from the Orient, not from,
Oh,
you know,
I
yeah.
see.
Yeah,
Processed in that sense. Uh,
but it's definitely all doable. The body wants to heal and
what are you,
wants to
sea,
clean.
oh, sorry to interrupt. It's a little delayed. What are your thoughts on sea moss?
I think quinoa is great. You know, it's still a mystery. Some people say it's a seed, some people say it's a grain.
Oh, I was saying sea moss.
Oh, I thought you said quinoa. What did you
Same.
say?
Sea moss? Have you heard about the benefits of sea moss? I tried it recently. It's like it comes in like a gel form. Uh, and it's like basically got all of your nutrients in it, but it's in a gel form. Well, if you're not interested in that and you haven't had it before, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but apparently it's got about 90 minerals of your essential minerals that you need in your diet every day. So it's just kind of like another version of a multivitamin.
From
Ireland, usually in Ireland.
usually what? I'm not
You
understanding.
Ireland.
But what plant? What?
Oh, it's literally sea moss gel. Like it's
Oh,
from sea moss. Yeah.
okay. Maybe,
Oh,
maybe.
okay.
If
I'm
it's from
throwing it at you.
clean water, I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah. So what are the benefits of seaweed?
Same.
Same.
High, very high in iodine, and one of the highest
Oh,
foods in calcium, absorbable calcium.
oh,
Calcium from seaweed, best, great for bones. Yeah, the seaweed is great.
great. Okay. That's what I got to stock up on now.
Gotta be
Um,
clean.
yes, it's got to be clean, organic. Okay. Also on the note of iodine, what are your thoughts on metal cleanses?
I'm
Like
not
the
under.
Metal detox. That's been really popular now.
Okay, well, something completely changed my view of that. I have a friend who's an acupuncturist who studied with a master acupuncturist in Japan, whose family was in the business for decades and generations, and they work with stone medicine. And their stones, one is tourmaline. And if you read about it, it will blow you away. Because if tourmaline is soaked in distilled water and you drink it, it will suck out heavy metals. And I once did a test where I was high in mercury, I was high in lead, I was high in cadmium. And I did this process with a special tourmaline stone, a rough tourmaline stone, soaked in distilled water overnight and just drank it in the daytime for 3 months. And the numbers came way down. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Trying that. I think that that's better because sometimes I'll forget to, there's like a bunch of sprays and drops that you're supposed to take, and I'll just
I
try that.
can send you a
Sounds-
link to this. Yeah, it's pretty far out. So, yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think eating healthy bit by bit, but this is something that's like, I mean, I went to a medical doctor and he saw my results, my original results. He said, you need IV chelation immediately. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just did this thing with stones, and his eyes just rolled around. I said, let me take another test and look at it. It just blew him away. He couldn't
That is,
believe
I feel
it.
like your modern medicine's worst nightmare. Everybody's like big pharma, buy this medication and I'm gonna send you to 8 different doctors. And then there's you who's like, no, I just drank water with an organic stone in there. You're getting all these results. That's phenomenal though. I feel like that's the way to go. Um,
You
yeah,
can. Okay.
yeah. So, what were, some of the biggest challenges that you've had throughout your nutrition programs for your clients, and, how did you overcome them?
I think that there are few. One is that there's always mystery. And some people, are just not meant to be here any longer. I mean, maybe there's another life waiting them. I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, for the cancer thing, I always held this consciousness of not knowing. And
Hmm.
I felt like I would place my head on the feet of the beloved and said, I'm doing everything I can. And if I'm really meant to go soon, I just accept it. Beyond this, what else can I do? But if
Hmm.
there's doing that could be a game changer, I really invite being able to let go. So I
Absolutely.
press anything. When I work with people, I just tell them, I'm part of your team. You
Hmm.
know, like keep your eyes and ears open if you intuitively feel to add another piece. And we talk about it. For each person, it's just different. I mean, it's just different. And as I say, there's mysteries. Lately, I watched this film, extraordinary film. I think it's called Cured. Again, I can send you a link to that. A
Great.
woman was dying of 4-stage breast cancer, and it was in a terrible state. And someone suggested she do a psilocybin journey, mushroom journey, and
Hmm.
it just brought her into forgiveness and harmony. And she ended up at the end of it just resolving a lot of the fear, a lot of the anger, just was calm, accepting. And 4 months later, they found that their cancer was receding.
Wow. How about that? I mean, I've heard a lot of similar stories, even with some veterans that I know who have done the exact same treatment. It's really healed their PTSD and their depression and anxiety and all that stuff. So, well, on that note, what about cannabis, treating with cannabis? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a 90-year-old client, amazing client, who broke her pelvis. I mean, she's fragile, and she's got some joint pains, and CBD oil is great to help her reduce pain. I mean, originally the doctor had put her on this medicine that has a very high incidence of heart attacks.
Oh, really?
It's like a very common pain medicine. I mean, when she needs pain medicine, if CBD does it, go for it. You know,
Yeah. Like,
I growing up that when you smoke grass, you get really hungry, and it
mhm.
can put strain on the liver and use up nutrients. And I'm not a fan of getting hooked on it and needing to do it every day and getting stoned. But I think
Mhm.
as a boy, that would be my one of my main choices. Yeah.
Better than alcohol, right?
Yeah. But lately I've been there's a product called inflammasome, and it's just very strong enzymes you take on an empty stomach, and it kind of breaks down inflammation. And I've had a few clients that have had their pains have gone away, just after a few weeks of taking it. So it's very powerful. But they've made dietary change, and there's other supplements, not
Mhm.
completely. So there's more ways to do things than just one. And I'm not a complete purist where only, whatever. But I
Right.
think that what's really critical is that the foundation is strong.
Mhm. Yeah,
Nutrition.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I forgot to ask you this question about, I read somewhere on your website that you are not really the biggest fan of caffeine. And I'd love to get your thoughts more on that subject of, what caffeine, what are the negatives to caffeine and coffee? Because I'm a big coffee fan. So I love it.
The basis of the work I do is to try to provide the most amount of fuel available for the body to use as it chooses to use. Caffeine burns it faster, it wastes fuel.
Okay.
Need to drive and stay awake. I'm so grateful for caffeine.
Right.
Awake. But it doesn't have nutrients in it to give it
That's
energy. But what it has is a chemical that causes your body to burn its energy faster. So ultimately, it uses up energy. And if I'm dealing with people where it's critical to have as much energy as available, we just need to stop coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it's very acidic. And you've been saying that you would rather stay away from those things that have acid in it.
Oh,
Well,
well,
that makes
it's an
mhm.
acid balance. It's like all protein is acid. I mean, there's a balance. We need both, but you've got to be careful to not push the edge. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so if you were to list, maybe if possible, as many as you can, maybe 5 to 10 of things to steer away from and things to incorporate into your diet, what would they be?
Okay. So the first thing is fresh vegetable juice.
Okay. And which ones? Like beets would be celery.
Yeah. It depends on somebody's condition. I mean, somebody with high blood pressure, somebody with the potential for candida, you wouldn't want the sweetness of beets. But normally they're great, good for the heart, very high in nitric oxide, wonderful for the liver, very high in iron. Carrots are incredible for the immune system, for the eyes. Celery is just phenomenal. Cucumber is good. I mean, the basics. I don't necessarily encourage any fruit in juice. And then dandelion greens, a handful of those are great. Cilantro pulls heavy metals out of the body. Ginger, a wonderful thing. I'd say turmeric, but it makes your teeth yellow. Forget that one.
Right? Use a straw, bamboo straw or something.
So
Love
basically, I'd say a juice. I'd say 2 or 3 salads a day. I'd say at least a quarter pound of raw nuts a day. 1 or 2 pounds of fruit a day. just lots of vegetables and then lots of, um, what I call entree foods, combinations of grains or beans or potatoes or yams or, organic soy would be fine.
Okay.
Uh, and occasionally wild caught fish and eggs.
So the
Basically,
soy, I'm hearing now that the unhealthy parts of soy are actually just a myth, and it's not true.
I believe it's not true. I've gone through that. I mean, statistically, countries where, soy has been major, such much lower rates of breast cancer and things like that. Yeah.
See
No,
that?
soy
And
is good. And if it's not organic, it's not good.
I was just about to say it's more what they add with it, just like other things here. So on that note, so organic is huge for you. Then I'm also a big fan of certified organic, staying
Yeah.
away from the all natural, right?
Oh, there's no question.
Perfection. Yep, you have to know where the source is coming from. All these pesticides, that's really what it's all
There-
about. It is. So, okay, so staying away from, if I'm remembering, saturated fats, and
Stay away
sugar.
from saturated fats, fried foods, and canola oils,
Mhm.
things, and free breast cancer in laboratory animals. It's a disaster.
Mhm.
Uh, Away from sugar. I mean, for sweeteners, 100% pure maple syrup and 100% pure honey. A lot of them are not pure. They look like they're pure. The only oil I suggest is cold pressed olive oil in glass. Again, it's tricky. Sometimes it's not what it says it is. But the other oils, I feel like they're too vulnerable.
Mhm.
Bread is really tricky. I have a recipe for almond bread, which is pure protein bread. It's great.
Oh, that sounds amazing, actually. I've never
Yeah,
tried that.
my cookbook, it's really, really simple.
Okay.
Um, it's like Ezekiel bread. I mean, once in a while, this is not going to be a problem, but to not make it the basis of a meal because it's all, processed. It's not going to be a high nutrient meal.
Mhm.
Really low, if you do cheese, it should be goat or sheep milk. Most cows are given hormones, increase in breast cancer and testicular cancers gone sky high since they put that in the foods. Um, yeah, I mean, it's like, the sandwiches are tricky. Pasta's, really tricky. Um, smoothies have become really a big thing again. The whole protein powder thing. I mean, it's tricky.
But doing hemp, oh, but that's still refined, right? Hemp protein.
Protein's great. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we'll stick to that. And how about collagen? I guess because it's still processed, no good.
Animal hides and animal bones, not always organic.
Always
I,
organic.
again, I have never, you can read such cellular things about it, yet I've never really met somebody one to one that felt like it was a game changer.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
see. And as far as things like oh my gosh, it's not paleo, what am I thinking of? The one that is, oh, the keto diet. So that's been really huge right now. I'm assuming you'd like to stay away from that, steer away.
diet is tricky
Mhm.
because they're eliminating such high nutrient foods. So many,
Mhm.
like people tell me, oh, I can't eat any nightshades. Why?
Oh,
Blah, 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 yeah. There's a small group of people that are allergic to nightshades, and they need to stay away from them. Okay. though there is a wonderful allergy elimination technique called NAET. You can look it up on the web, which works brilliantly. But I find nightshades are not a problem for most people and are incredibly high in brilliant nutrients.
Mhm.
The keto diet just eliminates too many high nutrient foods. And then it just pushes animal products and inflammatory fats, and feel like it's a tricky program, and I don't. It's got problems.
Oh yeah, I tease one of my good friends all the time because she's like, I'm keto, I can't eat that vegetable platter. But then she'll have like a pound of cheese. And I'm like, that is not doing it for you. But I mean, she looks amazing, but at the same time, are you getting all the nutrients that you need in your body? Chances are, no, you're not. So, and what are your thoughts on probiotics and incorporating probiotics into your diet?
I think the probiotics are at times like an extraordinary gift. Um, they really can be brilliant. I don't suggest that someone does probiotics all the time because it gives your body it weakens your body's ability to produce its own.
Mhm.
But it's needed. I mean, if somebody has gut issues, if somebody's been on an antibiotic, probiotics are an extraordinary gift. So there's a time and place, and there are different probiotics. I mean, I tried, different probiotics for years and years and years, and never really noticed anything until I stumbled upon one called Probiotic 42.5, made by something called Transformational Enzymes. It's expensive, but it's the only probiotic I ever really noticed a difference.
It's like the quality was there, it was worth it just for a
Um,
little
and
bit
there
at
are
a time.
more out there, but there's a time and a place for probiotics, and thank goodness for them. Yeah.
For sure. And on that note of expensive, I mean, eating healthy is expensive. And I always tell my clients it's just an investment in your health. It's way cheaper than hospital bills. So what would be your recommendation for that, for a client that actually can't really afford juicing and, because juicing is a bit pricey. Uh, any tips for them?
So it's like I just remind them. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a glass of wine, sitting down, having a cup of coffee and a muffin. How much is that? I mean, in the end, it balances out. I don't, and I
You
mean, for
want to,
me, it's like that's just my priority. It's like, I'm thrifty when it comes to a lot of things, but with food, I'm more generous. And then of course there are places like Trader Joe's that, are half price from the farmers markets and other stores. And I mean, you just shop around, but
right.
to me, it's, you just weigh the importance of things, and one's bodily health is
Mhm.
important.
Gosh, as I'm talking to you, keep thinking of more and more questions for you. One final one about nuts. So I've been reading a lot of benefits to Brazil nuts. Is that one of your top ones, or do you like the other ones better?
Say never more than 5 a day,
Never
because,
more than.
and of course it needs to be raw, but it's anti-cancer, and it's
Okay.
really powerful. And some people complain and they say, I heard that that's too many. And I
Mhm.
remind studies have never been done from nuts. They've always been done from refined
Mhm.
selenium. Um, and I've never seen a problem with that, but it's a brilliant nut. So 5,
Okay.
incredible. Yeah.
Okay, no more than five people. Also, castor oil. I've heard a lot about people, putting it on their stomachs and doing like castor soaks.
Oil packs, I think, are wonderful. Um, I recently read if you put castor oil in your eyes, it can dissolve. What are they called? The things that
Cataracts?
cataracts. I tried it. I was told I have the beginning of cataracts, and my eyes were so red and bloodshot. It was like, no way. So,
What about
around with castor oil, just make sure it's clean.
Gotcha.
In
What was it?
glass.
Oh, in glass. Okay, yes, no plastics. Absolutely. Good pointer there. Well, you are just a wealth of knowledge, and I just really appreciate your time today. I feel like I've learned so much, and I hope to do this again with you. You're just a wealth of knowledge, and this was fantastic.
Thank you. I very much appreciate being able to, um, pass on the mantle from my doctor onwards. I feel like the world is much more open, and certainly the media has enabled this to happen to a degree unimaginable, 40 years ago or 50 years ago. So it's
Sure.
great. I just want to mention, I have 4 books. I mean, Beyond Cancer Treatment is my story, but also written in it is a section about the diet I was put on, talks about detoxification, what to do about it, things like that. And then there's a book for kids called Eat Smart, Feel Great. I wrote it for my stepson, who was very opposed to eating healthfully, but kids love to understand how things work. And if it can be presented with humor in a simple way, they can get it.
Huh?
And, to change their habits when they're younger is easier than, when they get older and have to. And then I get together a cookbook after years, my clients just saying, which cookbook? And, there was none that I really felt. So
Right.
I putting it out myself, and it's got a lot of good recipes, especially the almond bread.
I bought for a friend of mine, and I'm going to buy that one. I'm really interested in the dream one you had too, and Beyond Cancer, obviously.
It's
So
very, very interesting because if anybody has any feels connection with the dream world, the dreams can offer extraordinary guidance and gifts, and mine have, and the book is sort of about that. But it's something bigger because even though it's personal, I mean, it's really written that I also feel that dreams are collective and represent also the world, the population, the mythical world. And so to look at dreams smaller and bigger, I mean, there's just such a wealth of guidance and wisdom. They're great. So in that book, I've tried to convey that. So anyway, it's a gift to be able to share this. I feel Dr. Curcio on my shoulder, kind of smiling. So
you were
I'm
getting through something that was painful, which is really cool. And you can buy your books, all 4 of them. They're available on Amazon.
on Amazon. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
great. Okay, so everyone needs to check those out. I'm gonna finish them up too, for sure. Thank you
Well,
so much for your time today.
may you continue to be doing what you're doing and just get really valuable healing relevant information out there. Yeah,
This
good.
is the whole purpose. It's just about spreading that word and making people's lives better so that they can live healthy lives and just be strong, better versions of themselves. That's all it is. So, all right, Dr. Figtree, you are awesome. Thank you again. Appreciate you.
You too. Take
Have a
good
good
care.
one.
You
You
too. Bye.
too. Bye.